All right. Hey, everyone. Mark here. Mark P Markets. Thanks for joining me for another Bitcoin video analysis session. We're going to take a look at what to anticipate this week. All right. Today is a market holiday. So sometimes I don't stream during market holidays. So I expect it to be slow. But I figured, you know what? I want to get this out of the way because it is important for planning, especially over the next 2 weeks. Okay. Let me just adjust my microphone. Hold on. Okay, that should be a little bit better. All right, guys. So again, I want to thank you all for joining me. Okay, we have Raman. Good to see you. Glenn, Johan. All right. I am also simulcasting on TradingView. Let me just say hello over there. By the way, all right. So for those of you that may be new to the stream, let me just quickly explain how this works. So first thing is I run through the economic calendar. First thing that you should do every Monday. The second thing, I'm going to run through the Bitcoin trade idea. All right, the expected range. We're going to talk about levels. We're going to talk about how to manage the trade. I missed the trade over the previous week, but a number of people in the channel, in my chat room, took the trade. And there was some great talk about it in the active investor channel. So nice job, you guys. We're going to talk about that situation because there are two magnitudes that we need to consider, especially in light of what the trade scanner is saying. So we're going to talk about that, and I want to clear up some confusion there. Then I'm going to answer your questions. So if you have a question about a stock or an altcoin, now would be a good time to put it into the channel so that when I get to that portion, I can answer your questions about that, okay? If you're watching on TradingView and you can't see me, do me a favor and refresh the browser and you will be able to see me. Also, now would be a good time to put questions in there as well. But like I said, it's a market holiday, so I'm expecting the TradingView side to be slow also. Okay, but anyway, so thank you guys for joining me. By the way, I want to welcome we got some new members that joined recently. I have, they're probably watching this after the fact. I have Alex from Romania. Of course, you have to remember Alex. Alex comes to every single stream. He's the only Romanian left that watches me. Of all the Romanians, I used to be very famous there. Not anymore. Okay, so Alex is a new member, and then we have Anthony. Anthony K. He's been following me a long time. In fact, he used to be a member back when I was running the other business, whatever you want to call that. So anyway, thanks for joining, you guys. There's some great benefits, by the way. I'm now going to include my training program for monthly members, so they're now going to have access to that. Anyway, there's links in the description if you're more interested in that sort of stuff. So you can also reach out to me if you have any questions and let me know. You can find me at markpmarkets.com. That's the best way to reach out to me, by email. All right. Also, you can join my Discord community, which is free. There's a free area. And I'm actually going to invite free members to my next student meeting. Okay. And I had a bunch of people reach out to me that were interested in that. So once I have the meeting scheduled, which will most likely be next week, once I have that date scheduled, I will send you guys by private message the link. Now, again, if you reach out to me, make sure it's Mark P Markets 4130, or I can't remember the number now, but the Discord took away those numbers. All right. Obviously, they finally got wind of all the fraud that was going on. So that's why the best way to reach out to me is email. Right now, you can find me in the community as well. It says owner next to my name, Mark P Markets. There should be no conflict. Okay. But the old number that I had was like 41. I think it was 4130 was the number. Anyway. All right, you guys, enough of that. By the way, if you like my stream, do me a favor, press the like button, press the subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my YouTube channel, press the boost button over on TradingView because it really helps me out. I am looking to expand my channel in terms of tutorial videos so I can really focus in on things that people want to know. There he is. Alex, welcome back. Alex from Romania. I just said hello to you as a new member. Okay, again, thank you for becoming a member of the community. So yeah, and also make sure you check out that meeting archive channel. All the previous student meetings are in there. All right, and I just made that available. So there's a lot to go over, especially when it comes to the trade scanner. We covered a lot of stuff over the recent months, right? And this is all new. I never made this available to monthly subscribers before. So anyway, nice job. And again, thank you again for becoming a member. All right, so first things first, let's talk about the economic calendar, and then we're going to get into this Bitcoin chart, all right? So first we have, it's a quiet week. One thing I want to say before we talk about the actual economic events that we have this week, I have to point this out. There's this thing called seasonality when it comes to markets. And there are times when there's generally more volume, and there are times when there's generally less volume. Okay, sure, Alex, no problem. I haven't seen your message yet. I'll definitely take a look. I should be able to get to that today. So again, thank you. So this thing, seasonality, right? You may have heard the term, but it's very important when it comes to volume. And it's very particularly important when you attempt to day trade, because in order for a setup to follow through, it really helps to have a lot of volume present. And the months that we are now going into, right, in the US, the summer months, these are typically lower volume months. Now, that doesn't mean that the markets won't move, but what it does mean is there's more likely to be random, erratic price action. There's more likely to be less follow through, and setups are less likely to work. So understand that. And as the summer unfolds, as it continues, August is probably the worst month, typically or historically, the worst month to trade. So if you're going to take time off from this market, do it in August, okay? But things are going to get tighter and worse as we get to that in terms of volume. And like I said, it doesn't mean the markets won't move, but what it means is there's likely to be more erratic movement and a lot of random price action. Don't get caught up in this, okay? Don't get caught up, especially after the nonsense that we've just had since the beginning of April. We had this rally that seemed to have peaked so far in the NASDAQ, like around what, 15,250, something like that. It's ridiculous. And there are reasons behind that. And that we can talk about that here real quick. But, and, you know, even though I may sound opinionated on it, we still have to accept it for what it is. And if you're a day trader, you have to treat it a particular way. You cannot treat these things with opinions. The market wants to go higher. It wants to go higher. You don't fight it. Okay. It wants to go lower. It wants to go lower. You don't fight it. Don't fight it with opinions. All right. Now, so in terms of economic calendar, first thing we have this week is, what is it? Wednesday, which is the 21st. We have Chairman Powell testimony, all right, which is very important. So you want to be aware of that. We also have the Swiss National Bank. They have their interest rate decision. And we have the Bank of England with their interest rate decision. Actually, I believe the Bank of England is on Thursday. So we have Swiss National Bank on Wednesday. I believe Bank of England is on Thursday, which is the 22nd. We also have Chairman Powell testifying again on Thursday, the 22nd. That Chairman Powell testimony will add even more indecisiveness to this situation. So please keep in mind, we have a compound effect here as far as holiday. We have holiday. We're going into another major U.S. holiday in a week or so. We have 4th of July. So you better believe volume next week is going to be horrendous. So you want to really minimize. This is a good time to review things, to paper trade, to test things, to do research. It's not a good time to aggressively trade, especially if you day trade. There's this idea that you can just, as a day trader, oh, I can day trade whenever I want, and I can pull money out of the market whenever I want. That's a myth, and it's a lie. Don't fall for that nonsense, please. So we have Chairman Powell and Wednesday and Thursday, which means things are going to be pretty tedious going into that. The market's not going to want to have much conviction. Usually, this is usually the behavior to look out for. I could be wrong. The market can do whatever it wants, not what I think it's going to do. So you have to keep an open mind, but just keep in mind when Chairman Powell usually speaks, the market waits. Okay. And I'm sure you've all experienced that before. The market waits and they want to see if there are any surprises in what he has to say. Don't try to anticipate what he's going to say. Let the guy speak and then see how the price action processes that information after he speaks. Okay. Hans says, same for BTC and other assets. If it runs in the will be a premium bonus instead of, okay, what do you think about this way of investing? I don't understand that question. bits for a longer term hold. Are you talking about buying, collecting some inventory, accumulating some inventory? Is that what you mean? I don't understand the question. Maybe you can rephrase that. Okay. So that's the economic calendar. So again, Chairman Powell, those are pretty big events, but they could turn out to be nothing if he doesn't say anything dramatic or surprising. So again, you want to be more conservative during weeks like this. Do not push and do not take, it's really not a good time to be taking aggressive trades. All right. Does that make sense, you guys? Let me know if you have any questions about that. A lot of this is to be successful in this game. You really have to have a good feel for your environment. You have to be able to look at the bigger picture, and you have to be able to look at your smaller picture in light of the bigger picture. We're going to talk about that here with Bitcoin and the trade scanner here in a moment. All right. So, okay, cool. So I don't see any questions about that. Let's move along to the next thing here. So before I get into the actual Bitcoin chart itself, I want to talk about some trade scanner calls. Now, we had Litecoin and XRP. These were the most recent calls. Let's pull up Litecoin. And those of you who have access, if you want to share the trade idea in the channel, please do. You guys have access to the channel, so you can just copy and paste it, and then I'll make it. I'll put it on the stream here so everyone can see the actual trade idea. So here's Litecoin. Now it called Litecoin short, and I believe this was yesterday. It called it short at 77.70 or something like that. Someone want to share that in the channel? And so we can see the actual trade idea. Keep in mind what the trade scanner does. It's think of it as a screener, and it publishes notifications, text notifications with an instruction. It gives you a price, a timestamp, and an instruction. Look for longs, look for shorts on 1 hour time frame or above. That's basically what it says. Okay. If someone wants to paste that in the channel, that would be cool. There it is, Raman. Thank you. And Raman, while you're at it, can you grab the XRP one and share that in the channel as well? So this right here, before I make the chart bigger, I want you guys to look at this text on the bottom of my screen that Raman just shared. This is Litecoin, right? From the trade scanner, 77.70. It called it yesterday at 2015. So I guess that was at 8 p.m. Eastern time, something like that. And it said, look for shorts on 1 hour time frame or above. Now I'm looking at this. This is a daily chart. So let's look at this on a 4 hour chart, because typically when it comes to the trade scanner, that's the first thing you should be looking at. Okay, the 4 hour chart. Especially when it comes to the coins. Now let me make my chart bigger so you guys can see what's going on here. So 77.70 is the call. 77.70. Let's just see what that looks like here, and let's put that price on the chart. Right now we're at 76.70. So that was up here somewhere. Here's 77.70, right up in here. Okay, right up there. That's 77.80, right? So 77.70 is going to be around here. And let me just mark that on the chart. So 50, 60, 70. That's 77.70. That's where it called it short. Okay, yesterday at about 8 p.m. So that's interesting. That was probably on one of these candles. I mean, look at the high of this candle here, 77.77. The high of this candle here is 77.48. So 77.70, that was somewhere inside of this candle, right? Called it short. Now, here's the thing. It's calling this short. Actually, it was 6:18. So it was yesterday. It's calling this short because what it's seeing, I want you to understand what it's seeing. All right. It's looking at the robot looks at things on smaller time frames, a combination of smaller time frames. So it's looking at this structure right here. This is what the robot sees. Okay. It can't see beyond that. So if the short-term momentum is bearish, which is what this is, it's going to look for shorts. Okay. It also called Bitcoin a short the other day, but I warned people about that short. I said, Bitcoin on the bigger picture is a long, and it was clearly a long. In fact, I put a note in the channel on Thursday, and a bunch of people in the channel got long as a result, and it was a swing trade long. This is what I mean about magnitude, and we're going to talk about that. So what we're looking at right here is a smaller magnitude. Now, That's where it's calling it a short. Does this thing make sense as a short? Well, yeah, it kind of does. Look, we have a resistance here. All right. We also have, I mean, look at the structure behind it. Look at this. I mean, lower highs, a pretty sharp selling, pretty sharp selling activity right here. So lower high, lower low, lower high, right, tends to lead to lower low. So that short makes sense. Now, will it follow through? That's another story. If Bitcoin starts to rally, this thing is going to have a hard time going lower. So you have to keep that in mind. You have to look at Bitcoin as a reference as well. But here's another thing that I want to point out. And let me pull up my my ATR, because you guys, most of you should be familiar with this now. What is the ATR right now? 114. So we should probably round that to something a little more easier on the numbers, like maybe 150, $1.50, instead of round to one, round higher. I'm not going to round to two. We can work with 150 on something like this. And that's important, because if I'm shorting this thing, right, where do I put my stop? Well, based on the ATR, and if I'm multiplying that ATR by by 2, which is what we do on the 4-hour time frame, right? 150 times 2 is 3. So we can look 3 points higher, right? 3 points higher from 77.70 is going to be 80.70, right? Where is that? 80.70 is like way up here, right? So that's where my stop should go on something like that. So your risk is defined, but you have to know how to do this part, right? The robot's not going to do this for you. You have to do that part yourself. Now, when we multiply the number by 4, 150 times 4, what do we get? 45 or 450, right? Or $4.50. So if we go $4.50 lower, where is that on the chart from 77.70? $4 would be 73.70, something like that, right? A little bit lower, like 73.20. Something like this. Yeah, I'm gonna put it on the chart here. It's going to be somewhere around here, 73.20. That's your trade idea. What I just have done here, I just used the trade scanner to arrive at my orders. Okay, these are my orders. Your entry 77.70. Maybe you don't get the best price. Maybe you get a worse price than 77.70. Maybe because right now this thing's at 76.82. Maybe you got 77.25. Maybe you got 77 even. It doesn't matter. So as long as you're somewhere close to that, right? This is going to be your risk. This is going to be your reward, and that's based on the ATR at the moment. Does that all make sense? So many of you that have been following me for a little while and that are members, you pretty much should get this. All right. But if you're new and you're like, what is going on here? This is how a trade idea is set up using the ATR and working with the trade scanner. The trade scanner is taking all the work off your hands because you don't really have to do any analysis. It's telling you to go short. You look at it. Does it make sense as a short? Right? You answer that question, and then you can place your orders. Now, keep in mind, something like Bitcoin, right? It called Bitcoin short, and it called Bitcoin short somewhere around here. I don't have the exact one on that one. Okay. And as you can see, Bitcoin is tricky, and it's trying to fight that short. So here's what I want to say. And I want to talk about why. Actually, before I get to Bitcoin, I want to talk about XRP. But there's a reason why you have to be able to separate the bigger picture from the smaller picture. And if you're fighting the bigger picture, right, the bigger picture carries all the weight. If you're going to fight that, okay, but understand that your probability is working against you, and you should have lower expectations. It's not a trade that you can set and forget. You need to stay on top of it. This thing can go the wrong way on you quickly, because if the trade scanner is calling it, it's a smaller time frame. If there's a swing trade signal like there was on Bitcoin, that carries more weight. And if there's a conflict between the two, swing trade says long, robot says short, then you should go with the swing trade on the bigger picture, or that's where the probability, that's what the probability favors. Okay. Now, eventually, if Bitcoin continues higher, I'm going to jump to XRP, but I just want to say this real quick, and then we'll get back to Bitcoin. If Bitcoin continues higher and can continue this structure right here, right? If this structure follows through and we get into the 27s, then the robot will change. But the robot, when it goes through these transition periods, it's very possible for the robot to call a bunch of these erroneous trades. You have to be able to see through that and filter that. It's not going to be perfect. If I filter that, then it won't call any trades. Okay. So anyway, let me know if you have questions about that. Let's pull up XRP. And thank you very much, Raman, for sharing these. Okay, so 48.67, and it called that thing today. All right, at some point today. I don't see the timestamp on that, but okay, no problem. So 48.67. Let's just pull that up real quick before I go over Bitcoin. Right, XRP USD. And by the way, it calls stocks too. Right, I have a whole channel just for stocks, and it calls lots of stocks. It's ridiculous what that thing calls, but you only want to pick one. Anyway, but so let's talk about XRP. Now, again, XRP is going to have the tendency to follow Bitcoin. So we have that same situation. Where is 48.67? Let's just put that on the chart here. 48.67. Right now we're at 49.27. Okay, so it's about there. 48.67 is right around there. I'm going to make this bigger so we can see what's going on here. All right. So it called it short right around there. And as you can see, this is not working very well. Okay. That doesn't exactly look like how a short should be behaving. Litecoin is doing much better as the short. So not all of these are going to work out nicely, right? You have to understand, again, what you're up against. The short term on this thing is arguably bearish, right? That's why it's calling it short. As you can see here, let me just fix that. As you can see with this overall structure, right? This is like a lower high. And we have like basically, we have another lower high situation over here. We have another, this is actually not a lower high, it's a failed high. It made a higher high briefly, and then it sold off, right? And then, that could be, that may have something to do with the Binance drama and whatever. It doesn't matter what it has to do with. Binance, it called a great trade on Binance, by the way. Binance was a big one. But I'm not going to talk about that now. My point is this. If you take a trade like this and it's giving you a hard time, because remember, these altcoins are going to be affected by Bitcoin. Don't lose sight of Bitcoin. If this thing gives you a hard time and you see a candle like this, it's okay to get out and take the loss, right? Take a small loss. I mean, right now, this thing is what? How much is it would be against? 49.32. So about 50, whatever, 50 ticks against you or something like that. You don't have to take a full stop, okay? What would the full stop be on something like this? Let's see, 900,948. So we can round that to 1. We want to multiply that by 2. So what would that be, like 2 cents? Like a 2-cent stop or something like that, right? And then you multiply it times 3 for the take profit. You don't, if this thing is giving you a hard time, this is a higher low, okay? That's not a good sign if you're short. So you can get out, take the loss, and get back in if it gives you another short signal. So I just want to run through those. I want to review those trades because it's important to understand that trade management is the key to this, okay? Trade management, not I'm going to set and forget, because you can't do that with these, especially on these smaller time frames. Does that make sense? All right, Raman, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so you guys see firsthand what Trade Scanner notifications look like. All right. Let me now go to Bitcoin. I see people are getting bored. Let's go to Bitcoin, and let's go to the daily chart, because this is the point that I want to make. And I can actually turn this thing off here. I don't need the ATR for this. So we just talked about the Trade Scanner and what the Trade Scanner sees. The Trade Scanner basically zooms in, and basically this is the price action that the Trade Scanner will evaluate, basically, okay? And as you can see, for quite some time, this thing has been showing us this bearish type of structure, lower highs, right? Pushing supports, pushing supports, pushing supports, but not really making a lot of progress on the bear side. So this is a consolidation. It's a bearish consolidation, but this is not exactly a bearish trend. When we zoom out on the daily chart, which is what you should be doing when you're looking at swing trades, this is your support level. And that is where I called the possibility of a long developing on Thursday. I wrote it in the channel. I said, watch for the inside bar. If we close above the inside bar, right? But that was the inside bar. We close above that, where we take out that inside bar high, we have a buy signal. It's a swing trade buy signal right here. Some people took that. and that trade offered at least 1,000 points at one point. Of course, the take profit is going to be greater than that in terms of the risk that you have to take. But the thing is, this was an ideal spot for a long. And I told people, keep in mind, this was in the midst of all that SEC nonsense, all that other drama and nonsense and garbage. People get, they react to the news. They all get short for absolutely no reason. There's no reason to short into 25K. It went a little lower and then squeeze time. This is the result of too many people going short into something that's not exactly bearish. So they get caught and they get squeezed. That's what's happening here. So my point is this: as a swing trader, you have to account for this entire structure. You have to account for this entire thing right here, okay? In contrast to the trade robot, which is only looking at, the trade scanner is only looking at this. Can you see that contrast? Can you see now why the trade scanner will call a short, but you as the trader should know better? Do you see that? But the key thing for something like that is really the levels, because you should not be shorting into these levels. If you do, look, there's always the possibility that this thing can break. That's always a possibility. And maybe that's the game you're playing. But just realize, like I said before, probability is working against you. And you don't want to fight that thing. So if it gives you a hard time, if you short this thing, like that XRP example that I just showed you, if you short this thing in that area and this thing gives you a hard time, you should be getting out, taking the loss, because you're fighting something that favors a test of at least the 28Ks. That's the expectation. In the title, I put expected range. That is the expected range, the way I'm defining it. There are other definitions to that term, but this is basically the expected range going as this week unfolds, right? Pushing back into that 28K resistance area. That's where you should be gauging your take profits from. So if you use the ATR, your take profit should be somewhere up in that area to begin with. But even if you don't use that, that's where you should be basing your expectation. Now, it's always possible that we get the larger magnitude breakout, but keep in mind, we need a catalyst for that. So as long as there's no catalyst and things continue to go nowhere like they have, it's still likely that this market ranges like this. Like, for example, maybe it pops up a bit, right? Goes maybe into the 27s, gets everyone long, and then goes back and tests the low. That's a possibility that you have to be open to. There's no way to know for sure which way this is going to go. Anyone that tells you otherwise is just lying to you, or they don't even know themselves what's really going on here. You cannot forecast the future. No one knows where Bitcoin is going to be. If a new piece of information comes out that was unexpected, Bitcoin can push into here, possibly. It's a possibility. So you have to look at things in terms of risk and in terms of potential probabilities, right? At this moment, right now, if you're not long Bitcoin, this is not a good place for swing trades. Perhaps you could find a day trade in there if you're working on a 15-minute chart or something like that. But forget the swing trade. You missed it. The risk is too high now because this thing can easily pull back and retest the support. If it tests the support, you may have another opportunity for a long. This is, again, why I tell people, if you can reach 1.5 to 1, or even if you reach 1 to 1 reward risk, that's often a good time to take something off the table. That's especially true in these erratic, slow environments. And this environment is probably going to get worse over the next 2 weeks as we go into the next US holiday, and eventually work its way to a lower volume environment going into August. Like I said, if you're going to avoid any time in this business, avoid August. Don't trade. Go away for the whole month because it's horrible. All right. You want to talk about, if you think this is slow now, August is usually 10 times worse than this. So please keep that in mind. All right. So that's pretty much where I am with this Bitcoin thing. So as long as this thing, if this candle can hold the way it is, if it can close strong, the next candle should look like that, theoretically. If the next candle does not look like that, then most likely we're still stuck inside of this consolidating type of structure, and the possibility of a retest of that 25K still exists. Beware of the people who come out and say things like Bitcoin is going to 40K, Bitcoin's going to 80K, and all that other nonsense, just because there's a couple of green candles. I just saw on YouTube, this guy, he's a complete fraud. And he was reverting back to those old titles. If you buy these 3 coins, early investors will make billions or millions. Remember those titles from like December of 21? This moron is actually reverting back to those titles. I mean, really, if you haven't learned from that yet, I know all of you know because you guys follow me, but it's unbelievable what people believe these days. Really, it's really unbelievable. The best liars in this business are the most successful. All right. So enough of this blabbing. Let me get to some of your questions here. By the way, if you want to share what city or what country you're from, that's always a fun fact. I am streaming from the greater New York City area, so that's why I may speak funny at times, but that's where I am. All right. So let me go back and I'm going to start answering questions. Let's see what we have here. So from hey, Glenn from Norway. Okay, good. Welcome. Greetings from Dutch-Belgian border. All right. Yeah. Okay. Belgian. Yeah, we have a bunch of Belgian guys. Let's see what we have here. All right. So Alex, Gevo stock for a short. All right. Let's take a look. Gevo. Gevo. Let's take a look. All right. By the way, my trade scanner calls stocks. And that thing calls, it'll produce like a wall of like 20 stocks, short or long, right? That's an important sign when you see things like that, because let me just give you a quick example before I talk about the levels on this thing. When we have a situation like where the NASDAQ was pushing high after high after high after high, and then the trade scanner produces a wall of shorts, that is a sign that no one is really buying. Okay, they're only buying a couple of major big name stocks, and that's why the NASDAQ and S&P are making new highs. Meanwhile, the average stock is not being bought. That's usually a bearish sign. All right, so your question on Gevo, is it still a short? Let's take a look. Well, I mean, right off the bat, without even doing any analysis, it sure looks like one. Let's take a look at some levels. In fact, before I do that, let's take a look at the weekly chart and see the bigger picture. Oh, yeah. I mean, first of all, Alex, this is it's certainly a nice idea. I'm curious, is this an idea that you found on your own, or is this like from the trade scanner list now that you have access to that? Look at that structure. Lower high, lower high, lower high, right? Lower highs all over the place. Your most recent lower high is over here. So it looks like right now, after this week has not opened yet. So obviously this candle that we're looking at, the most recent candle, is the previous week. That's a bearish pin bar. That's certainly not bullish, okay? And it's a possible lower high. Alex, look at where this occurred. That's an old support, right? Old support, new resistance. You'll learn more about that in my training program. By the way, make sure, I'm sure you saw my message to you. Make sure you send me your email so I can enroll you. That is a location for a short, first of all. So probability in that area favors shorts. Now, let's take a look at the smaller picture here. Let's go back to the daily chart. And I mean, I would argue that it's still got some potential on the short side. You haven't completely missed out on this. Look at the support break that it's trying to show you here. I guess this is Friday's close. Look at the support at $1.47, and this thing is trying to break that. So I would think that tomorrow's open, if you can get this thing, maybe if it fools around in here a bit, right, somewhere inside that range, 150, 160, something like that, that may be a good place to get short. Your stop would obviously have to go up here somewhere, right? Because if this stock is going to be a short, it has no business going back up there and testing that resistance. So something like this would probably be a good choice for options. I don't know if this thing has options, but something like this, probably it's a stock that you follow. Okay. If there's options, you can do a nice bear put spread on something like this, right? Because that helps to reduce the risk. But I'm not going to get into options right now. But this, I would say that this is still a good argument for a short. Just keep one thing in mind. You're shorting a stock that's $1.50. So, I mean, what's it going to do? Go to zero? Probably. What's the lowest point here? $1. So and it closed at $1.46. So you're looking at like maybe 50 or 60, maybe 70 cents of potential possibly. A lot of people are going to be interested in buying this thing because it's cheap for whatever reason, right? I mean, it can go to zero, but just keep in mind when you're shorting something that's so cheap, it's a little harder to deal with at times. Okay. So thanks for mentioning. Let's see what I have over here on TradingView. Got my TradingView people. How you guys doing over there on TradingView? Let me say hello. Only 4 boosts? Man, come on, you guys. You guys are hurting my feelings over here. I'm supposed to be a wizard on TradingView. I'm supposed to be cool on TradingView. Man, I got like no one following me on here. Is this thing even working? I got Jacob. Good to see you. From Sweden. Okay. I'm from Sweden. Okay, cool. No problem. Boo. And PMX. Hey, how are you? Good to see you. Another member. All right. Yeah, where are my TradingView people? I'm going to have to complain to Stefan over there. I'm like, what's going on? No one's following me anymore. All right. Now I know it's a holiday and stuff. But anyway. All right. So, guys, if you have any questions on TradingView, let me know. Let me know if you want to see something. All right. So back to the other one here. So we went over Gevo. I hope that helps there, Alex. All right, let me see what else we got here. I'm just scanning the chat. Dom, it's good to see you. Grayscale, trust. See the above line. Okay. Oh, Grayscale. Oh, so if it runs, be a premium bonus instead of it. Okay, I'm still not sure what you mean, even in light of Grayscale. So you're talking about buying the Grayscale fund in small portions because it may be not at a premium right now. Is that what you mean? Nasir, we will see price will go towards 28K to make everyone feel bullish. Okay. Well, Nasir, I mean, we have to keep an open mind. That can happen, but that's just one scenario out of many. I don't have opinions. I don't carry opinions like that because things can change. You know, I won't get overly bullish. All I would expect is a reasonable resistance would be 28K. If we clear 28K for whatever reason, then we're looking at 30K. I would be surprised if we can clear 30K. All right. So, but if there's some sort of catalyst behind it, maybe something happens with the SEC or some other kind of drama and it pushes it through, then that's when we're going to have to start adjusting, and adjusting the expectations. One nice thing about the trade scanner is it's looking only at momentum. It's blind, completely blind to opinions. So if the momentum becomes bullish and it sustains itself, meaning we go from 28K to like 33K, 35K, the trade scanner is only going to be calling longs during that time, right? That's a great thing about that is it takes you away from opinions and it focuses just on technicals only, really removes you from the equation, which is a very helpful thing. One thing I want to say, let me just see what other questions I have here before I jump into my tangent. You don't count wicks for inside or outside bars? Dom, that's a good question. For inside bars, no. Well, I mean, you can have an inside bar and it can be a pin bar at the same time. It's possible, but the inside bar is a particular type of situation, right? It's like a consolidation. It's like a mini consolidation. Whereas like a pin bar, a lone pin bar can appear like at a top or at a bottom of a move, where the inside bar is often a trend continuation pattern. Okay. But the inside bars can also be reversal patterns. That's why I called that inside bar. I mentioned the inside bar on that Bitcoin trade in the channel. Okay. And a bunch of people took that. All right. So good question. One thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to say something about, now I can't remember what I was going to say. You threw me off with the inside bar situation. All right, hold on. Let me go back to TradingView over here. With this stock market, and what level is the bond market? Okay, good question. Would it take to invest in Bitcoin? Good question. So what level would the bond market? Let's go to the bond market. No one has asked me about that today. You guys should be paying attention to this, even though it's been extremely slow. What level should you be looking to invest in Bitcoin on the bond market? Well, we need low rates. We need cheap money. As you know, we've had a lot of problems with cheap money in this country, too much of it, okay? So bond rates, which are going to be inverse to this price over here, this is the bond futures, the 10-year note futures. As you can see, they're working their way lower. Although I keep talking about this, as long as we stay inside of this range, the market is used to this. So the market is not really going to work one way or the other in general. I'm talking about like the stock market and stuff. But if rates start working their way higher and we see bond prices in this area right here, if we see that, the party is over with the stocks. If we see that, okay. By the way, this party in the stocks is a result of Treasury Department action. And once the bond auctions catch up to that, I have zero faith in this rally because of that. Now, again, I'm not going to fight the price action in terms of the day trade mindset, but bigger picture, I'm not investing. All right. I would not touch stocks. I haven't been willing to touch stocks all year. I'm especially not going to touch them now. So my point is this: until we start breaking supports, right? We need to break this support for one, to get a reaction of some kind. This break of support, like if bond prices are pushing here, that means rates are getting uncomfortable again. The stock market is likely to feel pain. Bitcoin is likely to feel pain as a result of that scenario, because expensive money means stronger dollar, right? And stronger dollar means everything that trades against dollar becomes cheaper. This is a stronger dollar scenario here, especially if that breaks. Does that make sense? Now, if we have the opposite situation, again, we have Chairman Powell testifying on Wednesday and Thursday. Maybe he says something stupid, right? The other day when they had the Fed announcement, you know how many things I saw on YouTube? He has to pause, or he's going to pause the rate, blah, 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 right? And the market went nuts over that nonsense. But the bond market doesn't seem to be impressed. The bond market should be up here. Okay. Or the bond market, even better, should be way up here. This is where the bond market should be. Okay. If we see bond prices pushing that resistance, that means rates are now getting comfortably low. Low rates means cheap money. That's when you want to be buying Bitcoin, right? That's really where, or any highly speculative asset. That's when you want to be looking for more potential out of them. It doesn't mean that you can't invest now. But the thing is, why would you buy at resistance levels, right? If you're going to buy for the long term, let there be, pain in this thing. Bitcoin should be pushing 20K. Bitcoin should be pushing 15K, something like that. If you're buying at higher levels, right, and you're fighting a bond market, you're fighting interest rates, you're only getting in your own way. So if you must buy, because some people, I'm going to miss out. This thing's going to be at 40K and I'm not going to own any of it because I listened to this stupid bald guy. If you feel that way, then you should invest smaller. Okay. Invest smaller at high levels, invest smaller at resistances, and very small, so that if it pulls back 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 points, you're like, oh, who cares? Right. And then when you get that pullback, that's when you go in a little heavier. Right. Don't do the thing where, I'm going to miss out, and you listen to some moron on YouTube who tells you that the rally is just getting started and this thing's going to be at 100K in a month or two, and you think, I'm going to invest my 10K, it's all I got, but I'm going to go all in now because I'm not going to miss out on this one. And you're buying the top. You're buying a resistance, right? If you have a larger amount of money, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50K, you don't put it all in. You don't go all in. You take small bites and you control the amount of bite based on where we are in the market. And the bonds can serve as a very helpful tool as far as your accumulation plan. Okay. In fact, that's what I'm using for my speculative growth portfolio, which is available to my members, which I have not placed one trade in. We're 6 months into the year. I have not placed one trade because I don't trust this market. Okay. Especially now. All right. So anyway, good question. Let's move on here. I have a few other questions. BTC week 1 is a bullish hammer. Oh, from Nairobi, Kenya. All right, welcome. Cool. Bullish hammer on let's take a look at that real quick on the weekly. So okay. All right. So yeah, the previous week, that's the previous week, right? This is the previous week right here. Yeah, you have that. You have the bullish reversal, right? You have the hammer, the bullish pin bar. And as you can see, it's trying to work off of that, which is fine. That's a bullish signal. Okay. But it doesn't mean that just because we have that, it doesn't mean that Bitcoin's going to be here, right? As a lot of people will tell you, there's a possibility that can happen, but it doesn't mean that it will. Let me just give you an example. Like look back, if we look back here, right, this is a bearish hammer, all right, or a bearish pin bar. There's another name for that, but it's a bearish pin bar. And I'm sure many people at that time would have said, oh, Bitcoin's going to go to 10K by next week. And as you can see, it is a lot higher. Does that make sense? Here's another nice, beautiful bullish pin bar. This one worked out really well. But just because you have a pin bar doesn't guarantee that it's going to go to a certain price area. The pin bar just tells you there's a reversal taking place, and you want to know what level is this reversal taking place so that you can measure some form of risk. But you are correct. That is a bullish pin bar, and that's a nice observation. So thank you for pointing that out. Just don't get overly optimistic just because that shows up. The best way to use something like that, by the way, is you don't want to get short in front of something like that, especially as a swing trade. So that's a perfect example of a conflicting signal. Thank you for pointing that out. Calvin, Cal, let's see, DAX 40. DAX, let's take a look. DAX 40. What is that? DAX 40. Is that the same as the DAX? Because I don't see DAX 40 here. I just see DAX index. DAX 40. Can you be more specific? I mean, look, this is the DAX. This is sort of the German version of the Dow, I guess you can say. And if you look at this thing, look at this. This is going to be similar to the NASDAQ. This is sort of a reflection of global inflation, but I'm not going to get into the economic part of it. We're just going to stick to the technical part. Look at this. Look at this resistance, and look where we are now. Do you think that this is a wise place to go long? I hope you say no. If you're going to day trade long, or you're going to take some very short-term things, okay, that's cool, because you could have been doing that this whole time, right? Everyone's getting caught up in this nonsense. Oh, it's a rally, bull market, right? That's what everyone's getting caught up in, not realizing the location. This is a horrible location. I've been saying that about the NASDAQ now for about 1,500 points, okay? This entire area is a horrible location for a long, especially investing longs. And you'll say, well, how could you say that? You're wrong. I mean, if you told people not to go long here, look what you missed. Yeah. But if you're taking all that risk and this thing pulls back and you hold on to it like a moron, I'm not saying you're a moron, but I'm just saying the morons that will hold on to this, they take all the risk and they get caught in the pullback if there is one. And that can be dramatic. Okay. It can eventually turn into something like this. I don't want to get caught up in something like that. All right. So that's what I have to say about the DAX. The NASDAQ and S&P are probably going to look very similar. Okay. So thank you for asking. All right. So I answered your question about that. Oh, from Shumi Mihai from Romania. All right. I got a second guy from Romania. I'm getting famous there again. Tell those Tate brothers they better watch out. I'm gonna outdo them in terms of fame. I'm only joking. I'm joking. They won't even talk to me. All right. Any insight on rocket stock like ASR or okay? I think this is as low as it can get on NASDAQ at least. All right. Well, first of all, let's just take a quick look at the NASDAQ. Let's take a quick look. All right. What's going on there? As low as it can get. Let's go to the daily chart. As low as what can get? Are you joking, right? I mean, as low as this thing can get. As low this is as low as it can get. 13.2. Okay, that's a pretty significant support, old resistance over here. All right, you have some levels in here, like you have this right here, and you have this area right here too. Those are levels that you may see some sort of bullish attempt at. Okay, if they're not, like if this level's broken, then you're looking at this level. That's what you're looking at in the NASDAQ. This hasn't even moved. This is not a pullback. This is a joke. This is not moved. All right, so I certainly would not be thinking longs. Only day trade time frame only, nothing else. I have this. We're at the absolute high of highs. Okay, so now you had a question about some of these stocks. ASTR, what is that? Let's take a look. ASTR. Let's pull that up here. Oh, so maybe this is what you meant. As low as it can go. Maybe you're talking about the stock. So, all right, first of all, how much is this thing? 42 cents. Let's go to a weekly chart. This is clearly a garbage stock, right? If this is some garbage, it's not even a dollar, right? It's like in the pennies. Look how badly this thing has pulled back. Look at this. So here's the thing. This is obviously a small cap. How much was this thing at the most? $22.50. It is now 42 cents. Imagine investing in that because some fake guru told you that this is the next big thing, right? And right, big thing, straight to zero. So here, let me make this bigger over here. So something like this, first of all, you're going to see little pops and things like that. This is a garbage stock. So you have to treat this as highly speculative. If you want to buy some because it's super cheap, you're just basically buying on hope. If this thing had any quality to it, it wouldn't be at these prices, for one. For two, you need a speculative environment. You need money to be cheap again for something like this, because companies like this typically depend on loans or depend on debt, right? Usually. So if debt tightens or interest rates are too high, companies like this are no one's going to invest in them. So I don't know what they do exactly. If you're thinking 5 to 10 years out, maybe if they have a strong enough business model, maybe someone buys them. I have no idea. But the point is, the chart's horrendous. Okay, so I wouldn't be going nuts just because it's almost zero. That's usually not a good thing. Okay, again, this is going to be a function of interest rates, and interest rates are not exactly they're not exactly going in a way that would support something like this, if that makes sense. All right, so I hope that answers your question. RKLB. All right, let's take a look. RKLB. All right, RKLB. All right, by the way, if you're just joining the channel, make sure you can check my Bitcoin analysis that I just have done previously. Also, make sure to check the links in the description if you're interested in my trade scanner and stuff like that. All right, and if you'd like to reach out to me, Mark at Mark P Markets, I'll be happy to answer your email. Let's now take a look at Rocket Lab. Oh, I guess these must be like rocket stocks or something. How much is this one? Okay, $5.56. That's a little better than 42 cents. So look at this thing, right? Go to the weekly. First thing you should do, go to the weekly. Again, same story. These stocks got hammered, by the way. Obviously, this is going to be a function of interest rates. You're in a consolidation right now. Obviously, there was a recent pop. This may have something to do with the recent inflationary situation. Do not get sucked into this nonsense. Yeah, I know there's a lot of stuff with the rocket stuff or whatever. Do not get sucked into these dreams, okay? You have to look at this from the debt perspective. You have to look at this from the easy money perspective. And you have to look at this from the technical perspective. That's a resistance. So these are low potential right now. If you're going to get involved, I would say get involved small, and you need a cheap money environment, or you need an inflationary environment to come back into play if these things are going to do anything spectacular. And of course, the companies are going to have to show some progress as well. It can't just be, Elon Musk doing all the work and then these just benefit from maybe they'll get somewhere. Don't get caught up in that. If you're going to play this game, at least get good prices. These are not good prices, if anything, and go small. All right. That's what I'd say about these. These are highly speculative. You're just gambling with these. Always, if you're going to play these, you always want to find the best in the sector. And I wouldn't even know what that is with these. All right, so anyway, good question. Bro, I'm trading on Binance. It's gonna run. Any ideas? But you're oh, I don't know what you mean. It's gonna run. You mean everyone's gonna take their money out? Or do you mean that the coin is gonna go somewhere? Can you be a little more clear on that? Binance, my robot called this thing short a few times. What an amazing short this one was. But yeah, I don't know about running which way. I don't know. I don't know about bullish because this thing's got a lot of problems. Besides the SEC situation, right? Unless the SEC goes away, you have a situation like this. This is a resistance on Binance. That's a pretty significant resistance. You have another resistance right here. As long as you can't take these, this is Binance Coin, by the way. So I don't know if I'm answering your question properly here, but $253 a coin. If it can't take that out, this thing's not going higher, right? If it cannot take that out, yeah, you have this little bottom in play over here, but I would anticipate the retest of that because again, Binance got some problems, right? They got problems with being sued. and all that other stuff. So I wouldn't have much confidence as far as this thing having some kind of spectacular reversal. Anything is possible, but just keep in mind, look at your levels. This is not a level to be buying. Okay. If you're going to buy this thing, you want to buy supports. Supports right now on this thing are around 230. What's this low over here? 220. So you're looking at between 220 and 230 as a potential support. And it's going to have to really prove itself there, but it's going to take some time before it can reverse this momentum. Does that make sense? So I hope that answers your question. All right, let's move along here. I don't want to argue with your insight. Could it be a start to a climb the wall of worry? And if BTC climbs, all right, hold on. Let me just go back a bit. I think I've skipped a few people here. Okay, someone else. Okay, that was a DAX. Agha, suggestions for brokers. Brokers from what? What are you talking about? Brokers? Like, do you mean like currency brokers? You're talking about stock brokers? Because I have suggestions for all types. All right. Anyway, if you please can clarify that question. Glenn wants to see Cardano. Let's see Cardano. I haven't looked at this one in a while. My robot's been calling it, but I don't like the way this thing trades at all. I usually don't trade Cardano. So, you know, I'm sure we all remember the hype behind this one. This one was supposed to be amazing, blah, blah, blah. Amazing. All right. How much is this thing now? This thing is 26 cents. Okay. So keep in mind, these things are acting relatively weak. Look at this sell-off action. This is bad. That's bearish. Okay. This is a daily chart. You have a lower high established right here at, what is this? 28.96. We can round that to 30 cents. And we can go back a bit and see, is there any level that coincides with that? Yes, there is. All right. What level is that? 29.76, 30 cents. Okay. It wasn't even necessary for me to go back that far. I was able to round the number. How do I know that? It's a whole number. So as long as we are not fighting, this thing is not pushing through those resistance zones, this thing is going to have a hard time. So all these people that are getting optimistic, oh, they're getting cheap again. They can still get cheaper. So you have, look at the structure, lower high over here. Okay. Lower low is likely to be made. My robot's been calling this thing short. Like I said, I don't like this coin. I don't like these cheap ones, so I stay away from them. But it's very possible that you can test this 22 cent area again. That's possible. Obviously, that was an extreme, but if you're looking to get involved in this thing, at least wait for the lows. If you're thinking long term, but again, this is going to be a function of cheap money, and we don't have cheap money right now. And it looks like it's going to be some time before we have cheap money. I mean, the Fed may be pausing on raising rates, but there's a lot of problems we have to work through, okay, before they can just say, oh, we're going to cut rates again. It's going to be, if they cut rates right now, our dollar will be worth less than toilet paper. All right. So, and I know they're trying to avoid that, especially with the election coming. Right? We have election year coming soon. Han, you get an ETH, BTC, Litecoin, Grayscale fund if you want to invest in these assets. Oh, so you're saying that you can buy the Grayscale fund. Well, if you want to play it that way, and that sounds to me like a long-term idea. If you want to play it that way, then you can do something like buy one share at a time, literally one share at a time. You know, put some bids in the market. Don't buy at the market. What's the Grayscale symbol? I don't even remember the symbol on that thing because it's been a while since I've looked at that one. What is that? That's not BITO, is it? Is it BITO? No, that's ProShares. I forget the Grayscale one. Maybe you could let me know. All right. So I mean, look, you're getting them because basically it's lack of premium, right? So you're getting them cheaper because they're trying to get rid of it, right? Or whatever. So if you're thinking long term, look, it's not a bad idea. At least you're not paying ridiculous. You're not overpaying for these things, but you want to go small because again, you're fighting the inflationary. You're fighting the economic environment. With that, be careful with that. Okay, it's not a bad idea, but it's not a time to pile in either. Okay, you have to really develop a plan and take small bites. You know, I'd give you an idea. I just can't remember the Grayscale symbol. I should remember that, and I don't remember. What is it? Oh, GBTC. That's it. GBTC. Hold on. Let me hold on a second. Let me go back to that. GBTC. Right? So, oh man, how much is this thing? $15.14. and this thing is it's on the OTC market. All right, so first of all, don't get excited by this. Go straight to a weekly chart. All right, yeah, so it may be cheaper, but you know what? If this thing has problems, right, or whatever, or Bitcoin sees some weakness, it's very possible that you may test these lows again. So here's what you do on something like this. You take small bites. This thing is $15. So you can basically set up limit orders all throughout this area, right? All throughout this area for small bites. Maybe you're buying 1 share at a time, maybe 2 shares at a time. And if this thing pulls back, you're getting better and better prices with the idea that you're trying to accumulate at an average price. Okay. Keep in mind, some ridiculously low number. And you're like, oh, but I thought it was going to. Keep in mind, your risk is, $10, $5, 0. It's possible. It's possible. So that's why you don't want to get too big too fast. You take small bites, small bites. All right. So I hope that answers your question. All right. Let me see here. So if I'm just going back, I'm going back. All right. It's better to have no opinion, but if I see charts, okay. So no, look, you're thinking long term. So when you're playing the long term game, you do have to have some sort of opinion, right? When I'm saying no opinion, that's really a short term mindset. Long term, if you're thinking 5 years out, I mean, obviously you have to believe that Bitcoin will be higher, or these things will be higher in 5 years. Otherwise, what's the point, right? So there has to be some sort of opinion when it comes to long term investing like that. So that's why I'm saying manage your risk, go small, very small. So, and you take advantage of a pullback, and you can buy a little bit now so that if it keeps going, at least you have a little piece of it, but you will have opportunities to buy at better prices. Even if this thing breaks out for whatever reason and pulls back, you still follow the same plan. The mistake you don't want to make is you don't want to get too big at high prices. You want to get bigger at lower prices, with the idea that this thing can break this support, okay, at $7. It can happen. So you don't want to be all in and then watch this thing go to $5. All right, does that make sense? Okay. Hard squeeze looks like in stock market. Fed rate pause. Yeah, sure. Well, there's a lot of, I mean, it's that squeeze thing has a lot to do with the Treasury and all that stuff. But I think that party's over. Missed streaming several times. Please take a look at, oh, Gray, how are you? All right, so that's a Chinese stock, right? I'll take a look at that real quick. 601. Oh, hold on. I got to type in a letter first. 601. What is that? 601 360. All right. Let's take a look at this real quick. Is this one of these wild ones? Gray always comes up with these wild stocks. Let's see. 360 Security Technology. So this is a weekly chart. You have this initial look. Be careful. Be careful. There's a lot of this. And this goes back to, again, all the stuff that's going on with the Treasury and all the nonsense with the NASDAQ, because this stuff gets felt around the world, right? In a lot of these global markets, not just in the US. So be careful with this. Don't go all like, oh, this thing's strong and the market's going to continue. Now, next thing is it's trying to pull back. If you're going to play with this, at least look for support levels. Right now, you have a support at 1306. Yeah, I believe that's okay. 1306. That's not in dollars, obviously. I don't think that's dollars. No, that's in yuan. Okay, so you have a support area there. You have this consolidation developing, but this is a resistance. You have an old support, new resistance. Keep in mind that this thing can pull back and take out the support. So if you're going to get involved in this thing as a long and you're thinking swing trade, this little area right here that I'm pointing out, that's your swing trade opportunity. That's your, I should say, your lower risk swing trade opportunity. Getting involved now is very random. Look where you are. You're near a resistance. You're sort of near the midpoint of this tiny little range. There's a lot of noise in here. You see that? There's a lot of noise. So I would be careful with this and wait for better prices if you're thinking swing trade. If you're thinking day trade, it can be another story. You may have another green candle or two in there, possibly next couple of days, if the NASDAQ can keep its party going. But I don't know about that. Okay. I think there's a lot of weight, a lot of bearish weight on those markets right now, and we have not seen a real pullback in quite some time. So if we do see like a real pullback, what's going to happen to this thing? There's just something to combine. And that's from Chairman Powell flying 2 days this week. He can easily still incite, I was going to say incite a riot. He can easily incite a sell-off, all right, by just breathing the wrong way. All right, so thanks for mentioning, Gray, and it's good to see you from, I believe, you're in Shanghai. Again, thanks for joining. I know it's some ridiculous hour over there. Hey, Kai, how are you? DAX at all-time high resistance while German economy, right, time to go 100 times long. Yeah. Okay, Han, if the DAX NASDAQ goes, no. Look, this NASDAQ situation, this right here is don't get all wrapped up in this. This is the result of the Treasury Department, Treasury actions, okay? That is the result, that is what that is a result of. Secretary Yellen, and she's going to have to reach that money that she dumped from her repo, whatever. There's all these names for it, okay? And when she goes to reaccumulate that money, where do you think it's going to come from? So that means the market's not supported anymore. There is something to that, okay? I may not fully understand that, but there is something to that. That's more of a fundamental talk, but don't get caught up in this nonsense. This is outright nonsense. If you're going to get involved as a long, at least wait for a support. If you're thinking for swing trades, day trades are another story, but swing trades, at least wait for a support. That would be likely a trade, right? I'd be very careful, especially at these levels, okay? The higher it goes, the more this thing is likely to turn, right? The risk is working against you on the long side. Okay, a couple more. Right, and Kai is right. There is no safe trade. I like to invest a little bit into Doji coin right now. Would you? No effing way. Again, this is a meme coin. This is just complete nonsense, right? This thing has no value, and people that buy this, I mean, I'm sorry, but the structure is horrendous. You have a support level nearby, yes, but this is just, if you're looking at day trade, you're looking for maybe a swing trade, take a little bite off of this thing. Okay, great. This is not an investment grade vehicle, and I suspect that if at some point interest rates do become favorable, who knows when, this one probably will be left behind. Okay, because there's no value. It doesn't solve any problems. It's just garbage. Okay, it's a joke. So yeah, I took money out of Binance. Okay, yeah, I never trusted them. I never trusted them right from the beginning. I never trusted them. I don't understand how to analyze altcoins like BNB when the BTC pair also affects the price, but more volume. Okay, no. So John, you have to look at levels, look at price structure. That's how. Don't get mixed up with fundamentals. Don't get mixed up with opinions. Just look at levels and price structure, and then you can gauge your risk that way. That's why I came up with techniques like the ATR. That's why I have the trade scanner to basically reduce that confusion and arrive at orders. Think of it this way. You're playing a random game. You're playing a slot machine. So don't get caught up with, oh, well, Bitcoin, yes, there's an effect. If Bitcoin goes higher, it's going to affect some of these coins. That's called relative strength or relative weakness or intermarket relationship, right? There is some of that, but it doesn't always, it's not 100% thing. So that's why, if you're going to play the game, first decide if you're going to be a day trader or a swing trader or some other time frame. You need to know that first. And then you need to know the parameters that you're working in as far as your reward risk and as far as the type of setup and the type of expectations to have. All right, I know that was a mouthful, but if you have any questions about that, you can learn a lot in my community. Send me an email. All right, I'll be happy to help you with that. Okay, Han, LTCN. All right, you guys, no, they're confusing your support and resistance levels will be in completely, use whatever chart you're working with, okay? BTC might be going up against USDT. Right. So, but again, you're making it too complicated. All right. I'm going to answer that. You don't overcomplicate this. Use your chart. Okay. This is why I usually just revert just to Bitcoin. And I don't get mixed up in these, Bitcoin versus, Ethereum versus Bitcoin, Binance coin versus Bitcoin. Don't get mixed up in that. It's just a ball of confusion. First of all, look at all of your markets against the dollar. You need to look at your markets against something stable, first of all, right? And those levels will be somewhat more meaningful. You can see all kinds. You could draw horizontal lines on any chart, and you get all kinds of random levels all over the place. Okay, but if you want meaningful levels, for one, you have to be comparing something that's stable. Okay, like USD or USDT or something like that. Okay, you get the idea. So again, it's all about levels and structure and time frame. If you're sitting there looking at 5-minute charts, of course you're going to be confused. And then you're comparing them to daily charts. You're going to be very confused. You have to first define if you're going to be a day trader or a swing trader. That's very important. I cover some of those points. My webinar that I had the previous Wednesday or whatever, it's on YouTube. You can actually see that. And I cover some of those important points there where I talk about candlesticks and stuff. You should check that out. It's like an hour long. All right, maybe it'll help unconfuse you a little bit. All right, so please don't be confused by that. This is why technical analysis has some value in the sense that you can use price action, because price action is a reflection of all the known information in the world, right? That's factored into price now. So price action derived pieces of information like support resistance levels, price structures, trends, trend channels, things like that, they can have some meaning because it's a reflection of how people voted based on their perception of the future, right? That has to do with efficient markets and the fact that all the known information is baked into things right now. This is why you learn to trust your chart and you learn to trust structures unless the market provides a new piece of information. Then you adjust. All right. So I hope that helps. I know that may sound confusing too, but if you're confused, the best thing I can tell you is focus on price action. All right. Price action, price structure, levels. And only worry about that. Look at reward versus risk and only worry about that. Don't worry about anything else because it doesn't matter. There are people out there that are, I'm a genius in this, I'm an expert in that, and blah, blah, blah. And they say, so which way do you think Bitcoin's going to go? And you know what they all say? Well, maybe this way, maybe that way. They all say the same thing. There's no way to know. If you're looking for precision, you're not going to find it. All right, you guys. So I hope that was helpful to you. Do I see any other questions? Let me just see here real quick. My only long-term stock and only on tech. What? Hey, what's up? Coinbase, staying in business, not my keys, not my, I don't, Coinbase, look, I use Coinbase, but I'm not a big fan. Okay. Let's just put it that way. I really don't have too much of a choice. All right. All right. So I covered that. All right, you guys, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time with me here today on this market holiday. I hope that you got some value from this stream. If you have, please press the like button. Please press the subscribe button. Please check the links in the description if you'd like to support my community. I have a lot of value and I'm looking to pour a lot more value into this. My training program is now available to monthly subscribers. So there's a lot of value there, as my new guys are going to find out. All right. So again, I appreciate that. Again, also, if you're interested in the trade scanner, we went over some of that stuff earlier. It's a text-based notification system. It's like a screener. We went over that, right? If you go back earlier in the stream, I went over a couple of examples. I have one for stocks. I have one for coins. These are text channels on my Discord community. Again, it's all available to members. It's all one big membership. All right. So anyway, you guys, also, if you'd like to join for free, I have some stuff coming in there into the free area as well. And I have a student meeting coming up where I'm inviting all my free members. Okay. If you go to my free channel right now, there's actually a thing in there with an instruction. Once I have that thing scheduled, I'm going to be reaching out to my free members. I'll probably put the link in that channel as well. And you guys can join me for my first student meeting. That meeting is usually reserved for students and members. Okay. So you get some interesting questions answered and some other things. We usually go over trade scanner stuff as well. All right. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world. And thank you for watching.